Greetings, GCTE colleagues. I am Jennifer Dale, your conference director and vice president.
Hi, I'm Darren Krovitz. I'm the technology director at GCTE.
So, as we prepare to move into the 2019 conference at Brasstown Valley, we wanted to look ahead to the 2020 conference, location still unknown, and help you think about proposals and what you might do to have a more successful proposal for upcoming conferences.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. You got any tips for them, Darren?
We got a whole list of tips here. You want to start us off?
Well, the first recommendation we have is to pay attention to the theme. You can leverage the theme by bringing some of that verbiage into your proposal. And so, for example, this year's theme looks at digital learning and technology. So you can really leverage that by trying to bring some of that into your conference proposals to help make more robust sessions around that theme.
Second recommendation, make sure that you take full advantage of the word count that you're given. What is it, was it 500?
It's 500 for NCTE, 350 for us, but
350.
that's this advice applies to any other conference proposals as well, like NCTE.
Yeah, so if they give you 350 or 500 or whatever it is, just kind of imagine if you only write 50 words when you have 350 words to explain what you want to do or what you're planning on doing. That might seem a little like you're leaving a lot on the table. So try to flesh out a little bit. What is the background? What are you going to be doing with participants during your session? What do you envision the benefits to be for people who come to the session? Maybe what they're going to take away or use in their classrooms after this. See if you can flesh that out to take full advantage of the word count.
And then you also have checkboxes you can use for session formats. And we can fix the form next year so you can't check them all, but just choose one up front and only select one, because when you select multiple session formats, it almost feels like you're rolling the dice to the reviewers, and just whatever you'll take, I'll be willing to do a session in that format. And so we're looking, like Darren said, to use all the words that you can to clarify your proposal. Well, that also helps to clarify it and show how you're thinking about the delivery mode as well.
Okay, next pointer, be clear and descriptive. Yeah, that's kind of good advice for any kind of writing, but particularly true for this kind of summary of what you're intending to do. If we don't have a good sense of, or the reviewers don't have a good sense of how you envision the session going and what it deals with, then it's unlikely to be scored high by those reviewers. So, you can always run that by other people. That's another pointer on the list.
Yeah.
I'll just skip down to that as well. Just as you would for any kind of professional writing, it's always a good idea to move your proposal in front of somebody else and get their sense of what it needs. Is it clear? Is it coherent? Is it convincing, right? Is it something that's going to engage participants and get them to choose your session over someone else's?
And another tip for proposing good sessions is not to represent someone else's material because it was the best session you went to at NCTE or another conference. We all draw from others. I think teaching is a profession of remixing other people's ideas and giving credit where credit's due. But what did you do to remix it and make it your own and make it work with students in your specific school that's going to be more similar to other schools in Georgia than perhaps someone who may have originally done it in California or a completely different setting? So it's okay to draw on the work of others. We all stand on the shoulder of giants, but we want to also be original with how we're taking that up.
And I'd add to that also that you apply that to your own work in the past as well, so that you don't just simply do the same session that you did last year.
Right.
Obviously, we have particular interests and particular specialties, but you're always looking to push the needle a little bit and do something a little different. We're always building on what we know. So, for instance, I've been working in grammar instruction for a few years. I don't really want to recycle the same presentation that I've done before at the GCT conference. I'm always looking for the next thing that we're working on, and what is that I can share with people, or how can we move down the road a little bit with that topic.
Right. So it might be you expect when you see Darren's name in a program that it's probably going to be grammar related, but it's not going to be the same thing every
Hopefully,
year.
right? Hopefully.
Right. And then finally, basically, does your title sound sexy? Is it going to get people in the room and stand out in a program? Because that's the first thing people's eyes fall on in the program when they are looking under session and they're looking at a time block and saying what looks good to go to right here. Well, this is a sexy title. Now let's see what it's about. Oh yeah, that's going to get people in the room to have a more engaging title instead of just throwing out the name of a technique you've used.
Anything else about session recommendations?
No, but it might help if we unpack a little bit for you about how the review process works. As people who are behind the scenes, we have very little actually to do with the proposals themselves, or at least I do as the conference director. I see them all, I organize them all, I blind them all, which means I take your names, your school information, and any of that out of it, and then we set them up for blind review. And two people review your proposal using the criteria we state at the front of the proposal document. And it basically gets a score, and those two people are added together. And then we have a certain number of rooms and space. And so how many rooms and space do we have? And what are those top scores that fill those spaces? So it's, some years we have more space than other years. Some years we have fewer proposals. So just being aware that just because you've been accepted before, or just because you have relationships with us or other people on the board at GCTE does not guarantee acceptance, that you've actually got to put forth a good proposal because it's simply accepted based on a number. Any other advice from you, Darren?
Trying to think. My wife used to be a middle school teacher, and I think a while ago I asked her, what do you think of this session that I was putting together? She gave me some good advice. She always does.
She's smart.
The advice was to, give the session participants something they can take away.
Yes.
And that can be something physical, like tangible artifact, an assignment, or, some activities, or it can just be good ideas, right? Make it worthwhile, the time they're going to spend with you for an hour or so, that they're going to look back on it and say, that was a good choice I made.
And do something that invites them into the conversation as well, instead of just talking at them, like we're doing
Absolutely.
As a very bad model right here. But invite them into the conversation, because Darren talked about growing your proposal and your work across years instead of just representing it. A lot of times for me, inviting people into the conversation has opened up a new direction I might take that work, and then I have something different.
Yeah, I think that's part of the GCTE and NCTE atmosphere and culture, is that you don't go to a session and just sit there and listen to people. I mean, that sometimes happens, but especially GCT, we expect a sort of an interactive experience and people adding their perspectives and engaging with whatever the subject matter is in different ways. So that's always a good idea if you can envision a session like that. And if you've never done a session before, if this is your first one, it can be a little nerve-wracking, I suppose, the first time you're leading teachers in a conversation about something. But I always give pre-service teachers this advice, which is take the attention off of you. It's not about you, right? It's about the ideas that you're talking about. It's about the issue or the specific strategies that are governing what the conversation is. That's really what's important, not you. So take the attention off yourself and put it on the conversation, the dialogue, the questions that you want participants to think about.
Yeah. So you can reach us through any social media for GCTE, through our email addresses, which are published on the GCTE website if you have questions. But we really hope to receive proposals for you for upcoming events. And we hope that this helps you in thinking through that process. We hope to see you at Brasstown Valley in February too.